On January 2nd, 2019, the split-adjusted stock price of NVIDIA would close at $3.41. By November 21st, 2021, about 2 years later, that price would increase nearly tenfold. But as the market closed for the New Year's holiday the following year in December 2022, the price would fall by more than half from that peak. These market fluctuations reflect investor attitudes toward not just NVIDIA as a company, but of the GPU technology broadly, and especially its use in the data science fields. The first couple months of 2019 was rough for the Santa Clara-based firm. After announcing revenue losses the previous quarter due to the collapse of the crypto market, NVIDIA's stock tanked by as much as 17%. Beginning in March, however, things would begin to look up for the rest of the year after NVIDIA announced the acquisition of Mellanox Technologies, a data center networking firm based in Israel. This indicated a very strong strategic acquisition to investors. Another surge would come in early May as the gaming market rebounded. By the end of 2019, the stock price was cruising at nearly $6 per share. In February 2020, NVIDIA announced record data center sales the previous quarter. The stock price peaked at a record split-adjusted $7.91 a share. By March, however, the COVID-19 pandemic was in full swing, decimating stock prices across firms and industries. NVIDIA suffered, at least initially, the same fate, with their stock facing a plummet of 38% in just 1 month. In May, however, NVIDIA announced its next-generation Ampere architecture that boasted a 20-fold boost in performance for AI-related tasks. Miraculously, NVIDIA's stock rallied to even greater peaks, getting as high as $9.16 in late May 2020. NVIDIA price would surge once more to more than $14 a share in October, as the $40 billion acquisition of ARM Limited was announced, the largest acquisition in semiconductor history. 2021 would see a continuation of the immense success for the firm in the previous year. In May 2021, NVIDIA's board greenlighted a 4-for-1 stock split, indicating to investors a strong confidence by NVIDIA's leadership in the future of the company. For context, stock splits are when each share held by an investor is split into multiple shares, thus decreasing the nominal price of each share, but creating more shares for investors to buy. This and the July 2024 split is why reading about NVIDIA's stock prices in past articles can be a bit confusing, as present-day tables are usually split-adjusted, while prices before any split are, of course, not. The graphic you see here describes the split before the July 2024 split, which split the stock once again 10-1, hence the relatively low numbers I've been discussing thus far. In any case, stock prices rose yet again in the immediate aftermath of the May 2021 split announcement. In November, a hugely successful quarterly earnings report was published, announcing record revenues from both the gaming and data center markets, as well as their GPU's role in creating virtual realities such as Facebook's recently announced metaverse. Shares jumped to record highs in November, reaching a split-adjusted peak of $33.41. The next year, however, would present a number of challenges for NVIDIA. In December 2021, the FTC sued NVIDIA to block its acquisition of ARM Limited due to antitrust concerns. British and EU regulatory agencies acted similarly. Although the stock market had initially a relatively muted response to the news, the eventual death of the ARM Limited deal represented a mellowing out of NVIDIA's explosive rise up to this point. In August 2022, NVIDIA announced a grim revenue forecast for the coming quarters. Another collapse in the crypto market and decreased spending on consumer electronics due to inflation would make NVIDIA leadership and its investors alike highly pessimistic. This, combined with supply chain issues due to the war in Ukraine, meant that stock prices would tumble 8% on the day of the announcement, reaching around $17 a share. Fall 2022 would see NVIDIA's stock remain depressed. On September 1st, the U.S. government announced that NVIDIA would be banned from exporting its most advanced AI GPUs to either Russia or China, threatening billions in export revenue. By October, NVIDIA shares would reach a yearly low of $10.81, an astonishing fall from less than a year earlier. While the year would end up with a slight rebound, 2022 was miles away from the success of 2021. Overall, NVIDIA's financial story over these 4 years represents their leading role in developing the hardware necessary to drive the increasingly data and AI-driven world. However, their stock price over these years also reflects a wide variety of factors beyond the advancement of their technologies. These factors include business choices by NVIDIA leadership, such as aggressive acquisitions, consumer trends, such as crypto bubbles or demands for improved gaming technology, and finally, geopolitical movements such as the American economic or even military rivalry with China and Russia. Even a company as massive as NVIDIA is inevitably influenced by the circumstances of the world around it. Thank you.